The divorce was supposed to end quietly. That was the agreement. No public war. No messy posts. No family dragged into comments. No strangers picking through a marriage they never lived inside. I signed the papers because I wanted peace more than punishment. Adrian Vale signed them because he thought peace meant I would stay silent while he rewrote everything that happened. 3 weeks after the divorce filing became official, he posted the video. Not a short one. Not a quick emotional update. 47 minutes. A black and white thumbnail of him sitting in his car, eyes red, voice low, looking like a man who had escaped something instead of someone who had created it. The title said, "The truth about my marriage, I was used." Colorado trolled and silenced. By noon, my phone would not stop vibrating. By evening, strangers had learned my name. By midnight, people who had never sat at our kitchen table were calling me abusive, jealous, bitter, controlling, and dangerous. Adrian did not need to prove anything. He only needed to cry first. That is the ugly thing about the internet. Sometimes the first person to perform pain gets treated like the only person who felt it. I did not respond that day. Not because I was scared. Not because I had nothing. Because the truth was not ready to speak in pieces. And Adrian had forgotten one thing. A screen does not care how charming you are. A screen remembers. My name is Viola Carter. And when my ex-husband posted lies about me online, he forgot about the one screen recording that still had his real voice on it. Before the divorce, before the lawyers, before his face became a thumbnail for sympathy, Adrian and I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, in a 2-bedroom townhouse outside Buckhead. White cabinets, a narrow front porch, a black front door he insisted we paint because he said it made the house look expensive. Adrian cared about things looking expensive. The ring, the car, the vacations, the couple photos, the restaurant check sitting on the table long enough for people to see he paid. He knew how to perform love in public. That was the first thing I mistook for love itself. He posted flowers before he apologized. He posted anniversary dinners after starting arguments in the car. He posted long captions about loyalty while his phone stayed face down on the table. And because the pictures were beautiful, people thought the marriage was beautiful too. That is the danger of a polished lie. It does not need to be true. It only needs good lighting. When we first got married, Adrian was still building his marketing consulting business. He had charm, a clean haircut, an easy smile, and the kind of confidence that made people believe he was already successful before the bank account agreed. I was working as an operations analyst for a logistics company near Midtown. I was not rich, but I was steady. Steady paycheck, steady savings, steady habits, steady enough to carry both of us when his busyness months turned into slow months. At first, I did not mind. My mother, Evelyn Carter, used to tell me that love is not proven when everything is convenient. Love is proven when someone has the power to be selfish and chooses not to. So when Adrian's invoices came late, I paid the mortgage. When his client canceled, I paid the insurance. When his laptop broke, I bought him a new one on my credit card because he said he had a campaign to finish. When his confidence cracked behind closed doors, I held him together like my arms were scaffolding. I did not call it sacrifice then. I called it marriage. That was my soft spot. I believed loyalty meant staying longer than your pride wanted you to stay. Adrian learned that. Then he started charging rent to my patients. The first warning came small. That is how disrespect usually enters. It does not kick the door open. It tests the lock first. Onan Friday night, we were at dinner with 2 of his friends, Marcus and Dina, at a rooftop restaurant downtown. The kind with tiny plates, loud music, and a bill that arrives inside a leather folder like it is carrying a secret. Dina asked how Adrian's agency was doing before he could answer. I smiled and said, "He just landed 2 new leads this week." Adrian looked at me. Not harshly, just long enough for me to feel myself shrink. Then he laughed and said, "Viola likes to make it sound like she's my business manager. She just gets excited." The table laughed. I smiled too. That old reflex. The woman's emergency exit. Smile now, process later. In the car, I told him I did not like being dismissed like that. He sighed like I had asked him to carry a refrigerator upstairs. "Viola, you embarrassed me," he said. "I was supporting you." "No," he said. "You were making it about you." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it was true, because it was the first time I realized Adrian could take my help, twist it in his hand, and make it look like theft. The next morning, he brought me coffee. He kissed my forehead, he said. "I'm sorry. I just get sensitive about work, and because I wanted peace more than I wanted accuracy, I accepted the apology. Peace can be expensive when you keep buying it with your own memory." For a while, things got better. He posted a picture of us at Piedmont Park with the caption, "Built through every season." People commented heart emojis. Someone wrote, "Favorite couple." I remember looking at that comment while standing in our kitchen, wondering how a stranger could see a marriage I had not felt in months. But that is what social media does. It lets people clap for a house without knowing which rooms are on fire. The second warning came with money. Adrian had started using my credit card more often, first for software subscriptions, then for business lunches, then for temporary expenses that became permanent residence. One afternoon, I opened my banking app and saw a charge for $682 at a men's boutique in Lenox Square. I called him. He answered on the third ring. "Did you use my card at Lenox?" A pause, then the voice, that calm, offended voice people use when they are guilty but want you to feel rude for noticing. "I had a client meeting. You bought clothes with my card. I needed to look presentable. You didn't ask me. I didn't think my wife would humiliate me over a suit." There it was again, humiliate, a word he kept nearby like a loaded weapon. Anytime I questioned him, I was humiliating him. Anytime I disagreed, I was disrespecting him. Anytime I noticed the missing money, I was making him feel small. He did not want a wife. He wanted a witness who only remembered his good angles. I started keeping notes after that. Not dramatic notes, not revenge notes, just dates, charges, screenshots. Little records I told myself were for budgeting, but somewhere inside me, something quiet was waking up. A woman can say she is keeping records for peace, but sometimes peace is just proof putting on soft shoes. The real break came in January. Adrian had been working with a lifestyle influencer named Kelsey Monroe. She had 300,000 followers, a podcast about feminine confidence, and a voice that made every sentence sound sponsored. He told me she was a client. I believed him. Not because I was foolish, because trust does not feel foolish while you are giving it. It only looks foolish afterward, when betrayal has finished editing the footage. One Saturday night, Adrian said he had a strategy session with Kelsey and her team. At 11:42 p.m., I got a notification from our shared rideshare account, a receipt. 2 stops. First, a lounge in Midtown, a condominium building near Atlantic Station. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. When he came home after 2 in the morning, smelling like cologne and bourbon, I was sitting at the kitchen island. He froze for half a second, then smiled. That smile had carried him through too many locked doors. I turned my phone around. He looked at the receipt, then looked at me. And instead of explaining, he laughed. "Viola, don't start. Where were you? I told you. You told me strategy session." It was at her condo. His face changed. The charm did not disappear. It hardened. "You're tracking me now." The account emailed me the receipt. "So now you're monitoring me." I remember the refrigerator humming behind him. I remember the kitchen light making a bright white square on the floor. I remember thinking that truth should have been simple, but with Adrian, truth always had to walk through a maze he built in real time. "I'm asking where you were," I said. "And I'm asking why my wife is acting like a probation officer." That night, he slept in the guest room. The next morning, he posted a quote on Instagram. "Controlling people disguise insecurity as love." No names, no context, just enough smoke for people to imagine a fire. I saw the comments. "Stay strong, King. Men go through emotional abuse, too. Protect your peace." I sat on the edge of our bed reading strangers comfort my husband for a wound he had given me. That was the first time I understood how dangerous a vague post could be. A vague post is a loaded gun with no fingerprints. He did not have to call me abusive. He only had to create a shadow shaped like me. Over the next 3 months, Adrian's posts became more pointed. He talked about surviving emotional manipulation. He talked about being financially controlled. He talked about loving someone who hated your growth. People started asking if he was okay. He would reply with things like healing privately, while posting every breadcrumb publicly. Meanwhile, I was still paying the mortgage, still covering the utilities, still watching my credit card balance carry his business expenses like a tired mule. When I finally told him I wanted a divorce, he did not cry. He did not ask how we could fix it. He sat across from me in the living room and stared at me like I had broken a contract he had written without showing me. "You'll regret turning people against me," he said. "I haven't turned anyone against you." He smiled. "Number you haven't." That should have scared me more than it did. 2 weeks later, he moved out. He took his clothes, his ring light, his camera equipment, and the espresso machine my sister Tasha bought us for our wedding. He left behind 2 unpaid invoices, 3 empty cologne boxes, and a silence so heavy the house felt like it was holding its breath. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. No phone lighting up on his side of the bed. No late calls. No arguments disguised as conversations. No performance. Just quiet. I thought the worst was behind me. Because Adrian did not want a divorce. He wanted a stage. And once the papers were filed, he treated my silence like an empty microphone. When his video went live, I was at work. My phone started buzzing so much that I turned it face down beside my keyboard. First Tasha, then Noah, then Brianna, the numbers I did not recognize. By 10:17 a.m., my cousin Brianna texted me, "Viola, don't respond yet, but you need to see this." She sent the link. I clicked. Adrian appeared in his car, wearing a black hoodie, eyes red, voice low. Behind him, rain tapped against the windshield. It looked cinematic. Even his suffering had production value. He started with a long pause. Then he said, "I've been quiet for too long." That sentence alone pulled people in. He told them he had been controlled. He told them he had been mocked. He told them he had been financially trapped by a woman who used stability as a weapon. He told them I isolated him from friends. He told them I threatened to destroy his career. He told them I kept records because I wanted power, not because I wanted truth. He told them I was jealous of his female clients. He told them I hated seeing him grow. He told them I made him feel small. Then came the worst part. He looked into the camera. His voice cracked, and he said, "I never wanted to share this. But Viola told me if I ever left, she would make sure no one worked with me again." I had never said that. Not once, but he said it with wet eyes. And people believed him. By noon, the video had 28,000 views. By evening, it had crossed 100,000. Kelsey Monroe reposted it to her story with a broken heart emoji and the words, "Believe men too." That was when the strangers arrived. They flooded my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my work email. They called me bitter, narcissist, abuser, gold digger, jealous, a fake victim, a career woman who broke a man because she couldn't control him. Someone found my company page and left a comment under a logistics award photo from 2 years earlier. "This is who you employ." Another person messaged my manager. Another tagged my company's HR department. By the next morning, my name was no longer mine. It was a headline people were passing around for sport. Public humiliation does not always happen in a room. Sometimes the room is the whole internet. Sometimes the crowd has no faces. Sometimes the stones arrive as notifications. My manager, Dana Whitmore, called me into a small conference room with frosted glass walls. She was not unkind. That somehow made it worse. "Viola," she said carefully, "we're not making any assumptions. But because the company has been tagged, HR needs to document that we spoke with you." I nodded. My hands were folded in my lap, my nails pressed into my palms. "Is there anything you want to share?" she asked. For 1 second, I wanted to empty everything onto the table. The card charges, the rideshare receipt, the posts, the accusations, the way he laughed when I confronted him. But pain makes people sound unstable when the listener has already heard a polished lie. So I swallowed. "Not yet," I said. Dana studied me. "Not yet." I looked at the frosted wall, where 2 blurred employees walked past like ghosts, and I need to make sure whatever I share is complete. That was the day I stopped trying to be understood by people who benefited from misunderstanding me. That was the day the question changed. Not, why would he do this to me? Not, how could people believe him? Not, how do I make them stop? The question became simple. What can I prove? That night, Tasha came over with takeout I barely touched. Noah called 3 times. Brianna sat beside me on the couch, scrolling through comments with her mouth tight. Viola, she said, you need to respond. I will. When the proof can speak without me standing beside it looking wounded. Brianna put the phone down. You have proof. I looked at my laptop sitting on the coffee table. Yes, but even then, I did not know I had the one piece that would end him. I started with what I knew. Screenshots of his vague posts, bank statements, credit card charges, emails where he asked me to cover expenses, text messages where he promised to pay me back, voice notes where he apologized for letting stress make him unfair. I made folders, dates, labels, descriptions. No insults, no emotional paragraphs. Just facts. The more I gathered, the clearer the pattern became. He had not posted that video because he broke. He posted it because he was preparing the market. His business had started gaining attention from the same online circle where Kelsey Monroe had influence. A sympathetic divorce story was not just revenge. It was branding. He was not healing. He was launching. 2 days after the video went viral, Adrian uploaded a second one. This time, he titled it, Signs You're Being Financially Abused by a Partner. He did not say my name as much. He did not have to. The internet had already filled in the blank. He talked about having to ask permission to spend money. He talked about being shamed for investing in yourself. He talked about a spouse who turned support into control. Under the video, someone commented, drop her name so women like this can be exposed. Adrian replied, trying to take the high road. That man would steal your shoes and then post about the beauty of walking barefoot. The positive swing came from someone I did not expect. Marcus, one of Adrian's old friends from the rooftop dinner. He messaged me on Instagram. Viola, I saw the videos. I don't want drama, but this doesn't feel right. He told us a different version months ago. I stared at the message, then typed back. What version? Marcus replied 10 minutes later. He said he needed to get ahead of the story if you ever filed. I thought he was joking. My pulse changed, not faster, sharper. Like a lock turning, I asked if he would be willing to put that in writing. He hesitated, then said yes. That was the first witness. The next morning, a woman named Renee from Adrian's former co-working space emailed me. Subject line, you don't know me, but I think you need this. She attached a screenshot. It was from a private creator group chat. Adrian had written, if she ever talks. I'll just say she was controlling and jealous. People believe emotional abuse stories fast if you tell them first. I read that sentence 5 times, then downloaded it. Then saved it in 3 places. Proof has a temperature. Sometimes it burns, sometimes it freezes you. But the screen recording came from the old laptop. A laptop he forgot. The one I had bought for him on my credit card when his broke. The one he used for client calls before upgrading to a newer model. He left it in the townhouse because, as he texted, it's basically yours anyway. Basically mine. That phrase would become important. The laptop had been sitting in the hall closet under a stack of winter coats. I pulled it out on Friday night. It still had a gray sticker on the lid from one of his business conferences. The battery was dead. I plugged it in. The startup sound felt too loud in the quiet room. I did not know his login password anymore. But I knew the laptop had my admin profile because I bought it, set it up, and used it when my own computer was being repaired 2 years earlier. I logged into my profile. Most of the desktop was empty. But in the video folder, there was a subfolder named Zoom Captures. I opened it. 6 files. 4 were old client calls. 1 was a webinar. The last one had no proper title. Just a date. October Thafindi. I clicked it. At first, the screen showed a frozen Zoom window. Adrian's face. Kelsey Monroe's face. Another man named Bryce, who worked with Kelsey. Then audio started. Adrian laughed. Not the soft laugh from his apology videos. His real laugh. Loose. Comfortable. Mean around the edges, Kelsey said. So what are you going to do if she says you used her money? Adrian leaned back in his chair. I'll say she controlled the finances. Bryce laughed. But didn't she pay for most of the stuff? Adrian shrugged. Exactly. That's what makes it believable. I'll say she held it over me. My hand went still on the trackpad. Kelsey said, that's dark. Adrian smiled. No, that's strategy. Then he said the sentence that made the room inside me go quiet. If Viola ever tries to embarrass me, I'm going to make sure she looks crazy before she gets the chance. There it was, not implied, not interpreted, not emotional. Clear, his own voice, his own face, his own plan. I kept watching. The recording lasted 18 minutes. He talked about turning the divorce into content. He talked about how people love a wounded man's story. He talked about how if he looked calm and sad, people would assume I was aggressive. He mentioned my job. He mentioned my family. He mentioned using Kelsey's platform to shift perception. At one point, Bryce asked, what if she has receipts? Adrian laughed again. Receipts don't matter if people hate her first. I sat back in my chair. There are moments when anger does not arrive like fire. It arrives like architecture. Everything inside you becomes straight lines, walls, doors, a staircase. A plan. I did not post it immediately. That would have been rage. And rage can waste good evidence by throwing it before the room is ready to catch it. Instead, I called an attorney. Her name was Grace Bellamy, a defamation lawyer in Atlanta with a calm voice and the kind of questions that cut straight through panic. I sent her Adrian's videos, the screenshots, the financial records, Marcus's statement, Renee's screenshot, and the screen recording. She watched everything. The next morning, she called me. Viola, she said, do not argue with him online. I wasn't planning to. Good, we are going to send a preservation letter, then a demand for retraction, and if he keeps posting, we file. What about the recording? Was this on a laptop you owned? Yes, I bought it. My profile was on it. The file was saved locally. Do not edit it. Do not cut it. Do not add music. Do not add captions that change the meaning. Preserve the original file and metadata. I wrote that down. Proof loses power when emotion gets fingerprints on it. Grace sent the preservation letter Monday morning. Adrian posted about it by noon. A black screen with white text. When your abuser uses lawyers to silence you, that tells you everything. The comments exploded again. People called me evil. People said I was proving his point. Kelsey posted, legal threats are a common intimidation tactic. That was the negative swing. For 1 hour, I felt the floor drop. Then Grace forwarded me Adrian's official response through his attorney. He denied everything. He said his videos were truthful personal testimony. He said he never coordinated a smear campaign. He said he never planned to damage my reputation. He said he had no knowledge of any content strategy involving our divorce. No knowledge? Those 2 words opened the door, because the recording showed him discussing exactly that. Now he had not only lied online, he had lied through counsel. The villain had overplayed his hand, and this time the trapdoor had his signature on it. Grace filed the defamation complaint in Fulton County Superior Court. She included selected exhibits. Not everything, just enough. The filing became public. A local legal blogger picked it up. Then a commentary channel, then a larger creator who covered internet scandals. By then, Adrian's first video had crossed 500,000 views. He was getting invited onto podcasts. He had added a booking link to his bio. His pain had a calendar now. 2 days after the filing, his attorney requested a private settlement discussion. Grace told me, they want this quiet. I looked at the email. For months, Adrian had made my name loud. Now that proof had entered the room, he wanted silence to become sacred. I said, no private apology. Grace paused. What do you want? A public retraction. Written admission that the claims were false. Payment for legal fees and damages. And I want the screen recording released if he refuses. Grace was quiet for a second. Then she said, that is aggressive. No, I said, what he did was aggressive. This is organized. The settlement meeting happened on Zoom. Poetic, really. Adrian had humiliated me online through a camera. Now the truth was going to meet him through one. On my screen, there was Grace in one square. Me in another, Adrian in a navy blazer in the third. His attorney beside him. Adrian looked tired, but not broken. Not yet. His attorney opened with the usual language. No admission of wrongdoing. Mutual misunderstanding. Both parties hurt. Desire to move forward. I listened. Grace listened. Adrian looked at me once, then looked away. When his attorney finished, Grace said, "Your client's public statements accused Miss Carter of financial abuse, emotional abuse, threats, and professional sabotage. We have evidence that those claims were knowingly false." Adrian's attorney said, "We disagree with that characterization." Grace nodded. I expected that. Then she shared her screen. Not the recording yet. First, the credit card statements, then the text messages, then the rideshare receipt, then his posts, then Marcus's written statement, then Renee's screenshot from the creator group. Adrian shifted in his chair. His attorney's face tightened. Grace said, "Mr. Vale has also denied planning any reputational campaign against Miss Carter." His attorney said, "Correct." Grace clicked the next file. The Zoom recording opened. Adrian's face appeared on the screen from the 18th of October. Past Adrian. Comfortable Adrian. Adrian before the tears. Adrian before the soft lighting. Adrian before the internet called him brave. The audio played. I'll say she controlled the finances. No one spoke. Exactly. I'll say she held it over me. Adrian's present face lost color. The recording continued. "If Viola ever tries to embarrass me, I'm going to make sure she looks crazy before she gets the chance." His attorney looked down. Grace did not stop the video. That was the beautiful part. She let the screen breathe. She let his own voice walk around the room and touch every lie he had placed on the table. Then came the final sentence. "Receipts don't matter if people hate her first." Grace paused the video. The silence afterward was not empty. It was full of consequences. Adrian leaned toward his attorney and whispered something, but his microphone was not muted. I thought that file was gone. Grace raised her eyebrows. I did not smile. Some moments do not need decoration. His attorney requested a break. Grace said, "Take 5 minutes." They turned off their cameras. I sat still. My hands were steady. Brianna had once asked me how I stayed so calm. The truth was, calm is not always peace. Sometimes calm is what happens when your anger finally finds a job. When they came back, Adrian's attorney's voice had changed. He asked what terms we wanted. Grace read them. Public retraction, deletion of defamatory videos, pinned apology for 30 days. No further statements about me. Payment toward legal fees. Damages. Written acknowledgement that the screen recording was authentic. Adrian looked like every word cost him oxygen. Then he said, "This will ruin me." For the first time in the entire process, I spoke. "No," I said, "this will introduce you." He looked at me then. Really looked. Maybe he expected tears. Maybe he expected rage. Maybe he expected the same woman who used to accept coffee apologies after public disrespect. But that woman had retired quietly. She did not die. She just stopped working for free. The next morning, Adrian posted the retraction. No black and white car photo. No dramatic music. Just him at a desk, reading from a statement his lawyer probably approved line by line. He said he had made false and misleading claims. He said I had not financially abused him. He said I had not threatened his career. He said I had not controlled or isolated him. He said the previous videos had been removed. He apologized to me, my family, my employer, and anyone who had contacted me based on his statements. The comments were different this time. Wait, what? So he lied. Where is the proof? This is why people need to stop jumping on strangers. Kelsey deleted her reposts. Then she posted a story saying she was taking time to reflect. Reflection is what people call hiding when the mirror finally works. But the internet did not fully turn until the legal blogger released a short clip from the court exhibits. Not the entire recording. Just the cleanest part. Adrian, on Zoom, saying, "I'm going to make sure she looks crazy before she gets the chance, and receipts don't matter if people hate her first." That was enough. The same people who had called me abusive started writing paragraphs about accountability. The same accounts that tagged my employer deleted their comments. Some apologized. Most disappeared. That is how online mobs move. They arrive like thunder and leave like thieves. My company HR called me again. This time, Dana invited me into her office, not the frosted conference room. She said they had reviewed the updates. She apologized for what I had gone through. She confirmed that the company had documented the harassment and blocked several external accounts from commenting on company pages. Then she said something I did not expect. "You handled this with extraordinary restraint." I thought about all the nights I shook after closing my laptop, all the meals I did not finish, all the times I saw my name in a stranger's mouth and wanted to disappear. Restraint looks elegant from the outside. Inside, it is often a woman holding her own mouth shut, so the evidence can get dressed. "Thank you," I said. At home, Tasha came over with champagne. Noah brought barbecue. Brianna brought a cake from a bakery in Decatur with icing that said, "The screen recorded too." For the first time in weeks, I laughed until my ribs hurt. Not because everything was fixed. It was not. A lie can be corrected and still leave fingerprints. There were people who would never see the retraction. People who would only remember the first version. People who liked the lie better because it gave them someone to hate. But my name was mine again. Not perfect, not untouched. Mine, Adrian's business lost clients. His podcast appearances were canceled. Kelsey's audience started asking what she knew and when she knew it. Marcus sent me one final message. "I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner," I replied. "You said something when it mattered." Nene wrote, "I hope you're okay. I told her the truth." Because restoration is not always a victory parade. Sometimes restoration is sleeping through the night again. Sometimes it is opening your phone without fear. Sometimes it is walking into work and not wondering who watched the lie before they saw your face. Sometimes it is realizing that the worst thing someone said about you did not become the truest thing about you. A month later, I sold the townhouse. Not because I had to. Because some places keep echoes, and I was tired of living with his. The day I packed the hall closet, I found the laptop bag again. Empty now. The recording had been copied, preserved, filed, and stored where it needed to be. I ran my hand over the fabric and thought about how strange proof can be. It does not always look powerful. Sometimes it looks like an old laptop under winter coats. Sometimes it looks like a forgotten file name. Sometimes it looks like a quiet woman being called crazy while the truth waits in a folder. Before I left, I stood in the living room one last time. The gray walls were bare. The black front door was open. Sunlight came through the windows and touched the floor in clean rectangles. I thought about Adrian saying receipts did not matter if people hated me first. He was almost right. Hate does move faster than truth. But truth has better endurance. A lie can sprint. Proof knows how to finish. I did not become loud after that. That is not my nature. I did not start posting every private wound for public sympathy. I did not turn my healing into a performance. But I did learn one thing. Never let someone else become the only narrator of your pain. Because the person who tells the story first may win the crowd. But the person with the proof can change the ending. Adrian thought my silence meant I had no defense. He thought my restraint was fear. He thought the internet was a courtroom where volume mattered more than evidence. He thought if people hated me first, receipts would arrive too late. But he forgot one thing. Screens remember what charm tries to erase. And that old recording did not argue. It did not cry. It did not defend me. It simply pressed play. And by the time his own voice finished speaking, the lie had nowhere left to stand. They thought silence meant weakness. But silence was just where I kept the screen recording. For a while, I thought that was the end of it. Then, 2 weeks later, my card declined at a grocery store. I checked the app. Our joint account was empty, not low. Empty. Every transfer had gone out before sunrise. And one name appeared more than once. Kelsey. So I did not call Adrian. I called the number on the back of my bank card. The fraud specialist listened quietly. Then her keyboard began to click. Soft, fast, professional. "Miss Carter," she said, "we're opening a fraud investigation." That was when I understood something. Adrian had survived my silence once because he thought silence meant fear. But this time, the silence was not mine. It belonged to the bank, and banks do not warn people before they start looking.